It is your guy Tyler here with Mom's Basement MMA, and I'm here with my friend Drew Dickson. He is an 8-1 champion bantamweight with the Art of War cage fighting in Cleveland, Ohio. I've been wanting to talk to this guy for a minute. He has the misfortune of being a co-host on a podcast with Gerald Spahn, who we also had on earlier this year. So why don't we just kind of start there, Drew? You have a podcast with Gerald. You're a skydiver. You got all kinds of interesting things going on. And you also are a mixed martial artist. So you're an interesting guy. You're certainly somebody at a dinner party, wedding, whatever, that I'd want to sit next to. Because I'm sure you have a lot of interesting stories. So I want to talk about your life outside the cage. As far as skydiving's concerned, that's pretty interesting. I know you have a license to do that. Is that something that you do? Are you able to take my stupid ass up there, and can I jump with you if I've never done that before?
So I couldn't jump, with you attached to me, but however, though, you can schedule a tandem and jump with a tandem instructor, and I can go on the same load and I can just disappear off the plane right before you jump as well.
I think I might ink myself at some point. I think
you can do it. You can do it, man. It's pretty safe, actually.
Is skydiving similar to mixed martial arts in the sense that most of it's mental?
For sure. The cool thing about it, man, a walk to the cage is very, there's a lot of adrenaline and there's a lot going on, I don't know, it's cool, man, because, a walk to the plane is kind of similar in certain aspects, you're going to do something wild.
And you're going to do something that most people don't have the balls to do.
You're walking to do something that most people don't have the balls to do, yes. One with a fight, now I double down on it with a jump out of a plane.
Can you talk to me, Drew, a little bit about the show that you do with Gerald? I've listened to a few episodes of it, and you and Gerald talk about a lot of really interesting things that really don't have anything to do with fighting. But I think a lot of people could really take a lot out of what you guys are doing over there. And can you talk about your show? What is it about, and how did you get on to that with Gerald?
Yeah, so he would do I think one of the old companies he worked for, they would do podcasts. They had me on for one. This was December last year when I got home from training out on the West Coast. He brought up he was going to be leaving this company, and he said the one thing he was going to miss was the podcast stuff. After that, this was shortly after ours that I did with them, and I'm dude, if you want to do a podcast, if you want to get one started, I'm down. I'm down to be with you. Just get it all started up and whatnot, and we can start something up. And there was no plan. We had no name or anything like that. And then but he was done. You could tell it was a little bit of the push that was needed, 'cause he's very crafty with, the online material and all that stuff, and videography and the, all that type of stuff, That's definitely his forte, And then, the next day, he already had shot to me a logo, Hard to Kill. He already named it Hard to Kill. I'm it's perfect. It's funny. It kind of came off something that he said, a year prior. And then, I used it when we were in this first podcast with this other company, and then he named our podcast that, So it was cool, man. He got the stuff set up and whatnot, and basically we just kind of run it as the gist of it was we want to have not even just athletes or not even just fighters or anything like that. We want to have a multitude of different people on who are doing different stuff, and hear their story, give them a chance to talk, and then ultimately figure out what makes you hard to kill. And it's going good, man. I mean, we're in the beginning stages of it, but it's growing slowly, and Gerald's very active in getting different people on and whatnot, and he puts it out there a decent amount, and he gets looks from different people. Different people. It's going good, man. It's cool, man. It works out.
And I've already extracted one of the I can't recall off the top of my head like what episode it was, but occasionally I have time to listen to a podcast if I'm out for a walk or if I'm like working on Photoshop or doing something like that. And I was listening to your show, and you and Gerald, I think it was you that was saying this, but you got on the topic of like living in the present and how important that is. And I never really thought about that, like maintaining that type of perspective. I'm always kind of that guy that's like looking around the corner. Like I'm never really thinking about where I am.
You're veering towards the future all the time, dude.
Always. But
when you're doing that, you're suffering in the present nonstop.
Yeah, because it's never like quote unquote.
You're never living it.
It's the hedonistic treadmill effect.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you guys are alluding to. I'm not a psychologist. For those of you guys who don't know what I'm talking about, the hedonistic treadmill, it's basically a psychological theory that we're talking about money for a second and pretend like the amount of money that'll make you happy is $1 million a year, let's just say. The whole concept is once you make $1 million, you get your baseline of happiness readjusts to that $1 million a year, and now you want 1.5. Now you want 2 million.
Yep.
We as humans are designed to not be happy, and I think that's mostly. Generally, I think that's what you and Gerald were kind of talking about, is just like realizing that, accepting it, and just trying to be content with wherever you currently are. Would you more or less agree with my Cliff Notes version?
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. I think it also boils down to whether you're, what are your values, I guess, in life, you know? If it's just work hard and make money, man, I mean, you're going to be constantly running to the present, dude. It's like you said, it'll never be enough, you know? And here's the thing, too, like, life just, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop when you hit that dollar range or whatever, or that certain accomplishment, man. It doesn't stop for when these UFC fighters obtain a UFC title belt, you know? Like, dude, there's something coming right after it, you know? So, yeah, it's I think it's finding, value in the present, man, as much as possible. It's so much. I think it's so much harder. It's a lot easier said than done, man. You know. But you know, I try myself, I guess. You know.
You know what? There was not to sound too much like a hippie, but there's kind of like a story, and it happened in like the 19th century, and there was like a very famous like gala, right? Like some famous like uppity up party where everyone's wearing like top hats and shit, and you know they got the gold watches with the chains and shit. You know what I'm talking about? Like an old like 19th century like old fashioned stuffy party, if you can imagine. And there were all the who's who of the time were in this like parlor room, and there was an author, and this is a real story. I will have to do more research because I wasn't planning on like going off on this tangent, yet here we are. There's this author at the time who was relatively famous, but you know he made a modest income for his publications and whatnot. And there was this like business magnate, this business tycoon that was there, and said author is chatting with another guest at the party, and said guest tells our author friend, like, that guy, like, isn't his house so beautiful? And that guy makes what you make in a month. Like, look at his wife, she's beautiful, his house is freaking amazing. Like, wow. And the author said to this guy, he's like, that's all true, but I'll have one thing that man will never have. And the guy looked at him and said, what do you mean? He said, and
Yep.
And that was one of those things. So I heard it for the first time. I was just kind of like, okay, hang on. I'm a pretty primitive guy. I need to like think about because that's it. That's the end of the story. And I had to really think about like what is like the salient point, like what is the lesson that they're trying to tell you as a result of that. And I think that just kind of goes back to the hedonistic treadmill, money, accolades, pursuits, goals, and
for sure.
And
I think if you set your values up right, dude, those things that you're like listing right there that usually people are striving for. If you set your values up right and it's not just to chase that stuff, you'll magically just wake up and be like, the way you're living, hopefully, you're like, oh shit, I do have that money. Oh shit, I did obtain that title. Like, whoa, that was, I don't know.
It's just wild to hear. You and Gerald are the first like fighters I've ever heard that talk about just enjoying being where you currently are, because fighters and it's not a knock. I admire this trait in fighters. If you aren't ambitious, if you aren't driven, and if you're not hungry, you'll never make it in this sport. It won't happen.
For sure.
You have to be ambitious. You have to set goals. But I don't really hear fighters talk about being happy with where they currently are. It's always like that right around the corner mentality. And I understand it, and that's probably healthy. But for you, it was just really refreshing to hear. Gerald just had his professional debut not that long ago. You're an AMI champion, and I'm sure you get asked all the time about, like, when are you going to make the bump up? And I'll ask you that annoying question myself, but it was just really interesting to just kind of hear your take on that. And I guess my first question for you is, there are a couple things. This is our first time meeting, but in doing my research on you and just what I've been able to like stereotype you as, and like the things that kind of like stand out to me from A, hearing your podcast, B, watching your fights, and then what information I've been able to just kind of pull. Here are the things I gleaned from you. You're a type of guy that had to really like be scrappy and really bust your ass off to get the things that you have right now. So you walked on to Kent State. You had an accomplished collegiate wrestling career. You're a small dude. You're 5'3", and I was a small kid growing up. I got picked on my entire life for being a small kid. And I was never like an athlete. Like, I'm sure if I was picked on, you were probably picked on too. Like, what made you, before we talk about Kent State and all that stuff, like, what made you, obviously you wrestled before college, like, what made you, like, pick it up?
Yeah, and then they tried me in wrestling when I was, I think 4 or 5 maybe, because both my uncles on my mom's side of the family both wrestled. I made it to state in 8th grade, wrestling in middle school, but it's a huge bracket. I was looking forward to high school. I went into high school at 92 pounds. I truly felt junior year was actually the most prepped I was and the most dialed into wrestling in my entire life. Mixed in with all the past seasons leading into that one, just put a horrible taste in my mouth. I was kind of being a little bitch. I just said, I'm done wrestling. Yeah, I was pissed off. I'm like, I'm done wrestling. This sport's not meant to be. I didn't care about the sport at all. I didn't even want to be around it. I went to college at Kent State, and I joined a fraternity in my first year, and I partied a lot. And it was weird, man. It's like it was a lot of fun, but then come like late into that, that fall semester, I was like, it felt like a chore to go and party, And then I'm like, my life is just missing something. I came home on Thanksgiving break. A guy that I know from a city near my hometown was like, hey man, I ran into him at a biddy tournament for my cousin, and he's like, hey man, you want to coach some wrestling? You can come on in at any time, and I'll pay you to come and roll around with some of the kids your size. I'm like, and eventually I did it for 2 weeks, and it kind of reignited my want for at least staying around the sport. So I'm like,
I think about all the things, Drew, that you just talked about. And here's what I'm seeing. There are so many people that would have quit. But there
was times where I wanted out, man.
And you talk about, like, I won't say quit, but like you go through these like temporary hiatuses, if you will. But then you go back. There's something about it that, like, you're that guy that just doesn't go away.
Fast forward, I wrestled obviously I'm a walkout my first year. Second year, I got no money as well. So I wrestled 2 years for free in college, where other people guys are there on some pretty steep scholarships and are complaining about the sport, and it's tough to be around sometimes, but because I'm here for the love of the sport, and because I don't go away. And I still think I have something to prove, man. I kept running back to the sport of wrestling. It was, again, it's a business. They're bringing in a bunch of other really skilled small guys too, and they're throwing money at these guys. So they don't really want me to be a starter, like November. It's a Clarion tournament. It's a Clarion Open. You get a bunch of D1 schools there, D2 as well, NAI and whatnot. It's a tough tournament. Make it down to 125 for that. I go 2-2, but my last match I hurt my hip, and I have no idea what happened. All I know is I lost it like 6-3 or something like that, and I go to walk back to the center to shake hands, and like I have this very sharp pain that shoots up through my leg, through my midsection, and lo and behold, I went through a lot of rehab and whatnot on this injury. Nothing was getting better; it was getting worse. Training staff were saying I just have a muscle injury. It's getting really bad. They finally say, go sit on the bike. I'm still wrestling with this injury. I'm limping every day out of the room, and I go behind Kent's back when I'm home for Thanksgiving. And I get an MRI down on my hip, and I have a stress fracture. About a third of my femur had a stress fracture, so I have a broken hip. And that was a moment when I was done with wrestling. So I'm supposed to go and wrestle and start at the Cliff Keen tournament in Las Vegas. It's a very tough tournament. And this is like 3 days into being back. I'm wrestling through. I'm gutting out this damn injury, man, and it hurts every day, man. It hurts really bad. All of the muscles around my hip were all it was all knotted up. It was knotted up to protect the joint, And it's a Tuesday night after practice, and we were supposed to leave Wednesday. We're supposed to leave Wednesday morning for a flight for Vegas. My doctor called me Tuesday night, and as soon as I saw that I'm getting a call with my results, I knew something was wrong. He just told me, hey, he was very stern too. He's like, I got good news and bad news. You don't need a hip surgery yet. He's like, but he said, so your labrum's fine in your hip, but he's like, dude, you have a broken hip, and there's fluid everywhere in that socket. And he's like, dude, if you wrestle on this any longer, this thing is going to collapse, and you're going to have a hip replacement at the age of 22. And I am like, right then and there was no questions asked. I told coaches, I'm done. We're done for the season. I'm done. I'm not going to this tournament. And that was my thought on the spot, Then I had to go back, and I'm limping a lot. My hip hurts really bad. I can't sleep. My sleeping at night was like, if my foot turned out, I would just kind of jolt awake, I'll even go back. The first week of the injury, so the first week of November after Clarion, I was taking painkillers that I had left from my shoulder surgery to go to bed. And then eventually I just started, you get drug tested, and for college, I just started smoking. I didn't give a shit, dude. I'm like, I'm in so much pain. I'm still rolling. If they happen to pull me for a drug test, I'm going to feel it. I have no long, and also at the time, too, I'm like, I have no idea how long I'm going to be able to cut this injury out for. It hurts really bad. And then when I got results on it, and I got that call, I'm like, I am done at the least for the season. And it's hard to look back on, because you're 21 with a really bad hip injury, and they're talking about hip replacement and stuff like that. And dude, I had to do things different, man. I'm like, the biggest thing was I hit a point where I was like, it's gonna hurt to give up wrestling and let it die. But I'm like, I'm just about there. And a few months later at the banquet, that's when I let them know. I'm like, well, I let them know earlier I'm not coming back, but I let the sport die at the banquet, dude, and I cried a lot. Yeah, it was tough because you love something so much, and you got really nothing out of it but headaches,
And thank God all you did was smoke a little hippie lettuce, because Ohio and opioids, that's a big fucking deal where you are from.
Oh, for sure, man, for sure.
I bet so many people that have gone down that road and haven't come back. They're either...
Yeah, no, it's bad. I have no worries, because even when I had the shoulder surgery, like, I took that stuff for a week, and then, like, I personally, like, was like, dude, I hate this shit. I'm not taking it again, And so like it's funny. I have addictive personality, but it seems to be towards at least semi good things. um, but yeah, no, I had I couldn't sleep, and then eventually I just started like I don't care if I get drug tested, dude, but I have to sleep at night. Coaches are making me wrestle. I'm in really bad pain, and I just started smoking. So I told myself as time went on, I'm like, when I'm done wrestling, I'll fight. At some point, I'll pick it up. And I go back to the well, and I do it again in college after a message from above was probably telling me in high school, hey, you're done with this sport. And I still went back and wrestled some more. And I think a message from above was still telling me, you are done with this sport. Come all these injuries, and finally, I picked up the call. My hip wasn't healing as quick as possible. I don't really know what to do. I'm pretty health savvy, but now I don't know a lot, And dude, there were certain nights where I cried a little bit because I'm just I had no idea if this is gonna heal properly. And I don't really. When you say 22 years old and hip injury, it kind of resonates hard, And so I kind of I picked up swimming. I started swimming a lot, and I didn't do anything for 3 months. Nothing active for 3 months, and I started swimming. The first month and a half, I was losing my mind. I've never gone a period with being so inactive, But I started picking up like functional health and whatnot, trying to learn how to supplement for joints, and just I let the sport of wrestling die, and I had to let it heal before I could make some moves and whatnot. And really bad wrestling career, man. It was a really, really bad wrestling career. I'm like to carry a victim mindset or anything like that, or be a poor me type of dude. But I'm at the point too where I can't be so tough all the time and just underplay some really shitty experiences and whatnot. I do commend myself for consistently going back to the well.
I understand why you would say it now, knowing your story, but you were a victim of like circumstance, bad luck, health issues.
Yeah.
And those things happen. And now you talked about watching Tough, watching Nate Diaz, and knowing in the back of your mind that, hey, eventually one day this is what I'm going to do. And then you enter the scene in 2017. And right off the bat, I think you have a massive advantage over almost everybody else. Here's what I mean. You have been hurt. You have had to perform in front of a lot of people before. You have probably been in so many tournaments. You probably hundreds of tournaments over the course of your high school and collegiate career. And like wrestling has like a very hardcore base. There are a lot of people that watch wrestling. That's a very big deal. Sure. So I would imagine like when you make that walk to the cage for the very first time, is it safe to say, especially on the Annie scene, like you're competing against somebody who probably hasn't had those sort of experiences themselves? Sure, they may have wrestled a little bit in high school or whatever, but like when you think about your pedigree, where you come from, and then making that walk into an octagon for the very first time, like can you tell me like how were you feeling? How did you feel like you had an advantage going into your very first Annie fight?
Well, the first one I have no idea, just because I've never done it before, so I don't really know how much of a wrestling background can, do its job, And top of that, it's not like I was a great wrestler. I don't even know if I was good, It was okay. But I have no idea. But also, too, from my time spent analyzing the sport, and like it seems like wrestlers fare pretty well if they can learn some other stuff, or if their wrestling is that dominant, But overall, though, so I'm confident in that, But I'm like, there's plenty of guys who are really great wrestlers who probably could not even step into a fight if they wanted to, So it's like I need to find out if I'm that guy, or which one I am, When I went into that first fight, dude, it was winging the shit out, dude. We took it on 3 weeks' notice. I was not training when we took it. I was working out, But like then once I got that fight offer, I was like, all right, well, I need to go and start doing something. So I started rolling jiu-jitsu like 3 days a week. A place where my buddy went to started, where he rolled at, So I used that as my prep for the fight. Just started picking up jiu-jitsu. I'd go home back to like my hometown because I'm still in Kent during this time, but I'm not wrestling. It's my last year at Kent, and I would go home. I'd hit mitts with my cornerman once a week leading into the fight, and I'd roll 3-4 times, and I'd also swim probably 3 times a week. Distance swim. And that's how I prepped for my first 3 fights. Dude, I didn't spar one time for my first 3 fights, but they were so fast. That first one was the 28th of October in 2017, and then I had one the day before Thanksgiving, so 4 weeks later, and then I had another one December 16th or 17th. So I strung bouts together every 3.5 weeks, basically. So the wrestling background, it definitely goes far to start that AMI career up. It depends if you know how to use it, But then it was like I started, running into a lot of tougher dudes, and I'm like, let's see what it can do now, And but yeah, anyways, I stepped into that first fight, and everything was quick. Dude, that was the 3rd bout on the card, and the first 2 were like first round finishes. It's amateur. There's amateur stuff. There's a bunch of debuts and stuff. And so we were up real quick,
Right.
And yeah, dude, it was cool, man. I actually fought probably like, I fought an opponent who like got in my face at weigh-ins. We were nose to nose. It was like such a cool welcome into the sport, because I'm like, I'm kind of laid back when I'm there, but I know what I'm here for,
Sure.
And of all my opponents, this is the one who like, he's like this over me.
Trying to mean mug you?
Yeah. Oh, he's trying to mean mug me, dude. He's there with his team. He's from Chicago. I'm by myself. My cornerman is not even there yet, so I'm by myself the whole beginning of the day. And, the weigh-ins, yeah, we're nose to nose. He's flexing over me. The promoter got hyped for only one weigh-in, and it was ours. And I'm like, dude, this is sweet. And I'm just like, dude, he's mean mugging me a lot. He's mean mugging me in the hall and whatnot, and I'm like, he's 1-2, but his 2 losses were actually, lo and behold, they're like guys who are like, 7-2, 8-1 Amis right now out in Chicago. So it was like, and then he runs into me, so it's like, dude, this guy just, he's had like the worst 3 freaking opponents all in a row, But that was, like those 2 were prior to me. Like he has losses against tough guys. He's a bigger dude. I'm fighting up to 135, so he's bigger than me. After the only thing I'm thinking during my head, like during that weigh-in is like, this guy thinks he's tough. I am going to drown this guy, man. And so like I made he's mean mugging me a lot. He's, all this stuff, and he's there with his team. He got some boys, and I'm by myself, I make the walk. He's in the cage before I am, and he's kind of like copying my pace, walking back and forth, and he's mean mugging too. I'm like, and I'm pretty relaxed, ironically, for this first fight, and they announce him and whatnot, and I'll do his stuff, and then they move to me, they start announcing me, and when they announce my name, I walk to the center, I point at him, and I point to the ground, and I'm like, right here, motherfucker, and and it was just such a, like, and he gave me 2 birds, and it was just such a, like, I'm like, I am in this dude's head now. Like, he was just, he's been acting tough this whole time, and I've been pretty, like, pretty chill and laid back, and then I hit him with that, and I know I just struck the emotions within him. He wants to knock me out, and I'm going to fucking take this dude down left and right until I drown him. And he ended up gassing out in the second. I was just all over him, dude. I had a little bit of adrenaline dump early in the first. He took my back. He put a triangle in. Couldn't get his stuff going. But I knew if I kept a heavy ground pace on him, wrestling pace, his tank was suspect, just from watching his fights. And, he started to peter out in the second, and then that's just when I picked up. And the referee stopped him and halfway through the second round, But it was a ground and pound, Drew? Yeah, that was a ground and pound victory. I have 9 fights, 7 of them have gone the distance.
I mean, how sweet. Like, you go in there, you're by yourself, and like for you to respond that way, you got a guy from a big city who's coming in, who's fought some tough dudes. Little old you is who he's going up against, and he's like, you were probably that tune-up fight that they were looking for, right? And then they
maybe, I was.
They get you in there, and then they all of a sudden they find out like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's fun. Dude, from day one, from that first, I've had high expectations from day one. I've treated this as a business from day one, and when I had a small support cast around me to start that didn't want me to do it, but support what I do, anything I do, But overall, I can tell a lot of people thought this was a joke when I first started. And to me, like, I'm not gonna fight the grain, But like, I always knew like this isn't a joke. This isn't a joke. I may not be great at this by any means, but like, there's a place for me here. It's just
you have been great though. Look at look at what you've done. Look at what you've been able to accomplish.
For sure.
And my God, I'm happy that you had to wade through the stacks of shit that you've had to wade through, the health problems, all the hardship, all the adversity, because at your age, you're a young dude still. You look back on all that, everyone else would have quit by now.
That's the thing. The wrestling is the main thing that's on display, that I walk into the cage with, But I think the trump card is I walk in there with a lot of really bad experiences. You
just want it. You just want it. Like when I watch you, you do, man. You remind me of Frankie. Like you're just a guy who wants it more. Or like Clay, you're a guy that just is a fucking dog, and he just wants it. And it's like, you know what? Like you might be able to get a couple licks in against me, but guess what, motherfucker? Like I will be back. Like I'm gonna keep coming back. I'm not gonna stop. And your motor and just your heart are the things that I see over and over and over again. So when you took that first loss, you took one loss. It was a unanimous decision loss. For a lot of guys, that would have been like a soul-crushing thing, and I'm sure you were disappointed, but like, can you talk about the loss and then what you went back to the lab with to try to get better?
Yeah. So the loss was like, it wasn't soul-crushing. I mean, it's upsetting, but it wasn't bad at all because it was the most perfect loss, I lost to a dude who was 5-2, who was probably, I think, 4 years older than me. Dude was like a grown man. I was still like 22 or 20. Yeah, I was like 22. It was my 5th fight in 4 months. So, a part of me, took it. I was taking dudes out, and I just beat a guy who was 7-2 at 145. He's coming down to fight me at 135. He doesn't want to fight at 135 come the week of the fight. He wants to fight at 140. I had a bad injury early in the camp. We gave this dude in this camp everything he wanted, and still beat him. And at that point, I kind of shot myself in the foot because I'm 3-0 with 2.5 months in the sport, and I'm taking a guy who's 7-2 at 145. He's ranked like 2 in Ohio at 145, and then beat him. And it's like, okay, I will never have a little pudwhacker matchup again. It's not going to happen again. I should have stopped after that fight. I was really worn out. I was spreading myself thin. I'm new to the business, Biggest red flag was he was already signed on a contract to fight. He was already signed, and he already wanted to fight me prior to my 4th fight. So I knew. So I didn't even all these things. I'm just like, hey, I'm here to fight. I'm not paying attention to shit. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take one more. It's the Arnold show. This will be a good opportunity. Take this dude. Beat him the first round very handily. A lot of grappling though. He's a counter striker. He's a very solid jiu-jitsu guy, probably a high blue belt, and he's much bigger than me, and he's a grown man, and more experienced than me in the cage as well. Beat him pretty handily the first round, but then I went back to the stool, and I was done. Like, I never felt that way in between any of my fights yet, and it was the first time where I was like, I don't want to be here. And that is a horrible, horrible feeling when you're in a fight. And I started the second round off with a big slam again. but I had to work for it. And then he got back up in like 30 seconds, and right then and there I had nothing left. Couldn't get anything going. He won the second half of the second round, and then he won the third round. Because of that, he won a 29-28. Dude, if I would have controlled a little bit more in the second round, I would have won the worst fight in the world. And honestly, I'd rather choose a loss, because I wouldn't deserve a win in that fight. Dude. It would have been really, really bad. Over a good opponent, I would have had a really garbage win. And yeah, dude, I took a break after that. I was not crushed at all, but I'm like, yeah, you need a freaking break, dude.
Right.
I did something that not many fighters do, and fighting 5 times in 4 months was like, it was cool to do. It's insane. It's cool to do, and it's a cool thing that in hindsight it's really cool, man. Because it's like there's not many people who are gonna put themselves up to that, you know. And I did. I ended up lining up a fight for August 18th, like the first week of July. So I'm like, all right, this is cool. Like I at least get to use this trip to, you know, Thailand as kind of a fight camp, you know, in a way, you know. Came home, picked the training back up, and took on a highly skilled jiu-jitsu guy who's a purple belt. His coach is Jason Dent. They were watching me for a while. When they offered themselves up for the fight, I was like, all right. The dude followed me on everything months prior, you know. I'm like, all right, that's cool. You were scoping me for a long fucking time. I just blocked him on everything, and then went back to work. You know, it was a chess match though, because as much wrestling as I had, this is August 18th. Yeah, as much wrestling as I had in this bout, this kid had as much jiu-jitsu, you know. So actually, I came into the bout. I'm like, I want to stand with this guy because I know I'm more athletic than him. And I just came off a trip where I striked a bunch, you know. I'm not going to be out of nowhere. I'm not just going to be day and night just striking clean or anything like that. But I want to stand more. He knew how to just take shots and then pull guard and just get me right back into that jit spiel. I'm like, wow, dude, the one fight where I don't want to be on the ground, I am getting pulled into the ground. And I won a tough bout. It was a split decision. I still don't think it was really. I have 3 splits on my record, and 2 of them I do not. At least 2 of them I don't think were splits. To be honest with you, this one could potentially be a split. It's really hard to call, man. But I don't feel my last fight was a split, and I don't feel my 4th fight was a split.
I have to say, Drew, I love watching you fight, and I loved watching that last fight. It was a really tough fight. That guy that you fought is. You know, I feel like a lot of people, and I find myself saying this line a lot. His record, if you look at it, he just looks like a nobody special type of dude.
Yep.
Like you would just like that guy that you're just kind of like, whatever.
In a way, that's why I took it, dude.
Then you see him.
I knew it wouldn't be dude. This was not going to be. See, that's the untrained eye would look at that on paper and be like, dude, he's going to walk through this guy. But being a part of the sport and a businessman in the sport and an athlete, you know, I'm looking at this. We're both on a 3-fight win streak. Neither of us has lost in a few years. His 4 losses were very early in his career. He has not been finished at all. And we're both 26. We're both the same height. He has 9 fights and I have 8. We have a lot of cage minutes combined. I knew this was not going to be easy by any means, dude. So it was a really risky fight for me to take because people would be like, why are you taking this, you know? But to me, there was a few reasons. That's one of the reasons I wanted to take it. The other reason was it was also the one that was offered up. And but another big thing was, too, is a lot of people, so I held the belt for that promotion, you know, for prior end of 2019 and against Fichera. And so I'm 7-1. People are telling me at 6-1, like, yo, you can go pro right now. Like, you got it right now. I'm like, I'm going to stick around, you know? So I take that Fichera bout, win the tough bout there, but, you know, really dominate the whole thing. COVID happens, take a long break, all this stuff, and I take this bout now. I have a, you know, again, people are telling me at 7-1, dude, your next fight should be a pro bout. I take this guy, and I take this too because, one, it's one that I'm probably, people think I'm supposed to win. He has a lot of experience. This is a highly experienced guy. And also, too, another big thing, like I said, was that not many guys acquire a belt as an amateur and then defend it. They either take one belt and then go pro, or they take they get one belt and they go for another promotion, they fight for another belt, you know, but they never defend the belt. So I'm like, I'm going to defend the belt. Like, I'm going to go in, and I'm also too, I'm the out of town guy holding the belt, which is also rarity in and of itself. I'm going to go into the town too. I'm going to defend it as well now, you know, and that's what I did. So.
Yes, indeed. And there are a lot of things that I saw about that fight where I wish I would have been there. I wish I would have been at that venue, because that was not a boring fight, man. Like, it went back and forth for a while. I personally thought it should have been unanimous. I was surprised it was a split. I think the reason why it was a split is because he put you down. Like, he hit you. You got back up, but he like rocked you a couple times. I forget what round it was. I don't know if it was
round 3.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I took some hits, period, like real briefly in round 2. Mm-hmm. But it was after I already had taken him down, had dominant position a few times, and then we got back to our feet. That's when he hit me a few times, and I got back on. I took him down again, hit him quite a few times, took his back, and then he was trying to go for a sweep on me, and I put him right back on his back, and was probably about to mount him at the end of the second. But like, you know, I look at it. I ended round 1 on back mount. I ended round 2 in half guard, probably about to take full mount. And then we ended round 3 where I was in mount, you know. I could easily give up the third round. I took some shots in the third round, dude. I had to gut some shit out in the third round, but I don't think by any means I lost round 2. But hey, I mean, when you fight a dude in his gym's hometown and stuff like that, and they probably don't really want you to win. You know,
I think you could give an argument.
Business,
I think you can give an argument like he earned one of the rounds, but it should have been a 29-28.
I agree. I'll give him the third round. But even with that said, I mean, the second half of the third round was mine.
Yeah, and I think that says something. Like, you're cut from a different cloth. You have a different mentality. You remind me a lot about the last guest I had on. His name's Terrence Saturn. He's a flyweight from San Francisco. He is 7-1, and he is he has multiple belts in multiple promotions in the San Francisco area, and a lot of people are saying, like, Terrence, man, it's time. Like, it's time. You need to go up.
Yeah.
You need to go up. And he's like, there's an AMI California state title that's out there. He's like, I want that. He's like, I'm not fucking going pro until I get it. Then I'll do it.
Yeah.
He's like, that's what I fucking want to do. He's like, I'll go pro when I'm ready, but I like this state belt that they have, that's mine.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go get it. And I like that discipline and that determination, and then just being steadfast in accomplishing that goal. Like, no, fuck that. I want that state belt. And you said the same thing. Like, no, fuck that. Like, I'm going to defend, because a real champ defends. Yeah. You're not a champ until you defend it. And you did.
That's kind of where I stand with that one. Yeah.
And so I think, what else? Like, I have to ask you, since we're on the topic of Terrence, I have to ask you the same question I asked Terrence. Like,
yeah.
You're like, what else do you have to prove? Like, at your current level, what else do you have to prove? You burned through all these guys. You lost one time. You captured the belt. You defended the belt. Do you want to do a couple more, or like what's next for you?
Nah, we're gonna go pro. And again, even with that too, I'm not in any hurry. Hang on 1 second.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Let me throw these in real quick, man.
No problem.
All right, brother, you there?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, my buds dropped off here. Next bout will be a pro bout. I'm not in any hurry. I want to make sure that, because my time spent in the sport, I've dropped a lot of my money on it as an amateur for 4 years. I still live at home, and it helps because I'm spending a lot of money on something. I'm investing in myself, I think there's going to be a lot of turn in my life here very shortly, I feel. But if we're talking about the sport, yes, the next thing will be pro. It was a big idea more of a necessity of mine to kind of work on the business aspect of things after this fight, trying to line sponsors up, trying to make sure I have all that stuff, set in stone at least, or at least some verbal agreements on anything like that, just but also too, like try to build a community here around myself being a product, but and so I'm also too funding this a little bit better, but yeah, as an amateur, I don't have anything else to prove, man. I'm ranked at bantamweight when I'm gonna fight flyweight as pro. I'm 1 in Ohio, 1 in Pennsylvania, I think 1 in U.S. Northeast and 2 in U.S. Midwest, dude. My style is gutty. It's the mud, and I don't have much left to prove as an amateur, dude.
No, I don't think so. And I think you at 125, like, you're for people who haven't seen you fight, and when you watch this, when I post this on the interwebs, you're gonna see what I grabbed from Drew, and you're gonna see why I like watching him so much here at the end. But going to 25, is that gonna be tough for you? Because you're a muscular dude. You're short, yes, but you're fucking jacked.
Yeah.
And so, like, is that gonna be a tough cut for you?
It is a tough cut, I wrestled 125 in college, but if we're talking college weight cuts, those are not good weight cuts, But no, it'll be tough, yes. But if I can divvy more time to the sport and even fund the sport a little better, I can make this cut healthily. And these last two have been at 130. Prior, when I got to weigh-ins for this last bout, I got there at 129, and that's after a 7-hour car ride. And so I'm kind of suffering a little bit on the way there, but like overall, like I was okay, So, getting there at 129, and I, quickly refueled myself to 129.8, as we waited an hour and a half for the weigh-ins. I'm not leaving anything on the table, But yeah, so just getting there and seeing 129 after that drive, where I'm hoping to, if I'm going distance for a fight now, they start flying me. Like I said, I can really put more time into the sport and whatnot. I'm going to have to for a cut to 125 because things need to be right. Those last 4 pounds are going to be rough, But yeah, it'll be tough. But I think I have a lot more knowledge on health, and I think it'll be doable. It'll be fine.
And like I said, go ahead.
No, you actually go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I wanted to talk about Gerald for a second because him being your boy, and then him being at roughly the same part in his career as you are in yours. He just made his debut.
Yeah.
That's probably a really good resource for you. Like, obviously 2 separate weight classes. I know Gerald's a huge...
Yeah.
Gerald's fucking massive. Like, he fights at 170. He's a big fucking dude.
Yeah, no doubt.
Are there, has he shared with you, since you're about to embark on this professional chapter that's right around the corner, has he given you, some tips on, what he encountered and, the difference between the AMI scene and the pro scene? Or is it just kind of more of a formality, really? No,
it's just more of a formality. I've seen enough, too. I've been around plenty of pros and whatnot. I've trained out, and I'm starting to divvy up my training a lot more, and I want to build. I'm starting to build a little bit more of a relationship with Team Alpha Male out in Sacramento. I've been out there for 2 long stays now. I don't.
Is the only difference you get a check at the end?
Yeah, I think the only difference, at least that he's going to share with me, is he's getting a check at the end, and but I mean he's fighting on CFFC, so it's a little bigger of a platform and whatnot. Sure. But there's really nothing he needs to tell me or anything like that. I can see it, But overall, though, no, not really.
Is that an option for you as well, CFFC or LFA, or do you have a particular promotion in mind, or are you just kind of open to any and all?
Yeah, those are obviously options because those are the feeders for the bigger shows and whatnot. But I don't really have any strict idea yet, you know. I kind of feel like I have a little bit of loyalty.
Oh shit.
We all good?
Yeah, we're all good. Yeah, that time you jumped off, but we're good.
Did that really?
Yeah. Maybe
I
it looked
can't-
like maybe it looked like I jumped off, but
Yeah, the same thing happened again, so I just didn't really know. It just froze and whatnot. So
yeah, I asked about LFA or CFFC, and then
Yeah.
you're about to tell me what
Yeah,
your
yeah,
thoughts were.
no, they definitely could be. I mean, like when I was at Alpha Male back at the end of the year last year, their management actually offered me 2 pro bouts, and one of them was a short notice quick fight in December with CFFC. And then the other one was back in February this year when I was home here. They shot me another offer for short notice with LFA on like 2 weeks notice again. They're both too short of notice. I wasn't really actually when I got home from California back in the fall last time. I got sick with COVID when I got home, so that was off the table anyways. But yeah, no, I've had pro bouts already. You know, through Alpha Male, I've had short notice offerings from both of them. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna go where I feel comfortable at the end of the day. And we're, you know, like I said, I feel like I have a slight loyalty to an upper hand, or the war has the upper hand with me right now. I feel, and it's I you know, I feel good there, but there's some things I'm gonna have to need to address with them if they want my pro debut, you know. So, but I'm not, you know, it's all opportunity, you know. It's now a business, you know. I'm about to get paid, you know. So,
yeah, you need to do what you need to do, and there's certainly nothing wrong with wanting to get compensated because you've cut your teeth, you've put in your time.
Yeah, that's one of the things I look at, dude. I have paid my dues plus some. There's a lot of amateurs who go off on a short stint as an amateur. They really didn't have to gut anything out, you know, and they go and they collect paychecks. It's hard. I do have that mindset where I want to prove a bunch of stuff. It could be just my upbringing, man. You know, it's been my upbringing in the sport of wrestling, or just in general, just life. You know, kind of feel disrespected at times and discredited many times. You know, so yeah, it's a double-edged sword, man. Because you can overdo, you can do too much, and you know what you need to do. You know, so it's one of those things that I need to fix the mindset a little bit on, but. Yeah, I'm learning it. I'm learning about myself as I grow older. You know, I'm soul searching and I'm figuring it out.
Absolutely. So you're gonna take your time. Do you have like a ballpark date in mind for like when you think we'll see you out there again?
If I were to say, I think maybe the first third of next year. You know, any of those first 4 months, let's say. But like I have, dude, if the right opportunity comes and I got to saddle up, you know. Sooner than that, then we'll do it, you know. But my biggest thing is I need to bring in some more funds, even if I have to work. You know, I gotta bring in some more funds now because I spent a lot of money the first half of this year, and especially on that fight camp. And I need to put some money in the bank, you know. And like I said, I've worked on the business aspect and whatnot a little bit more of recently. I just submitted an LLC, so I kind of want to have things a little bit more set in stone for whenever this turns more into a business than it already has been, you know?
Absolutely. So. Well, that's certainly going to be exciting. And before I let you go, as promised, I'm going to show your little hype reel I put together.
Hell yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It's pretty awesome. The guy who made it's a G. I wanted to give you the opportunity, though, before people watch that, like, what is it that they need to know about you? For the people that are going to watch you for the very first time. What is it that you want to?
What do they need to know about me? I mean, you'll if you start watching my fights, you'll figure it out. But yeah, man, I'm hard to kill, dude.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I'm hard. You know, I don't give myself much credit ever for anything in my life, and I probably should a little bit, you know. I'm extremely hard on myself, but yeah, I'm starting to find out, man. I am really, really freaking hard to kill, and dude, it ain't gonna be pretty when I fight. It's probably not gonna be pretty, man. Dude, like I'm a dumpster dog when I fight, dude. But man, it has gotten the job done many times now, you know, and yeah, dude, I just gotta, you know, I gotta keep staying diligent. I gotta keep changing how I train and keep upping, doing some different things. But yeah, dude, I'm hard to kill, man.
Fuck yeah. Hey, oh shit, I was gonna, right before I let you go, so this is the beauty of editing. What, you talked about your LLC, so why don't you go ahead and shout out whoever needs shouting out, whether it be your sponsors or gym or people, your LLC, whatever it is you want to plug. Why don't you go ahead and do that? Yeah,
I'll just I'll shout out a few sponsors and whatnot, or anyone that I feel like I'm gonna be, you know, working with going forward and whatnot. But yeah, Velocity Power Washing, Pedals from a Black Rose. What else do I got here? Title Boxing Westleg. Those people have been my people for a while. Shout out my first jits gym, which is GT BJJ, which I still do some work with, but overall, you know, a little further away from me, but I still slide in there. I feel comfortable with those guys, you know. We'll shout out Team Alpha Male. I want to, like I said, I'm still working on getting out there a little bit more and whatnot, and building that relationship as well, you know. Sure, there's plenty more, but I'll shout out my friends and family. I have a tight circle, and try and keep it tight and whatnot, and keeps the problems away. But my friends and family, you know, the small cast that has supported me from the beginning when I stepped into this, even when they didn't want to. I think now they're coming around to it a little bit more. They're realizing there's something there. They're realizing I'm tougher than maybe they thought I was. But yeah, dude, this is a work in progress, and it don't stop. So that's all I got for you right now. And shout out to you, man. Thank you for having me on here.
Oh,